Welcome to an all-new and expanded Talking Books. I'm Michelle Martin. Coming up, we'll hear from the renowned educationist and author of Beyond Smarter, Rafael Fuerstein.
We saw tremendous changes in people who really suffer from brain trauma. Yes. 5 minutes, 3 times a day.
From the marginalized student to the brain injured, from the elderly to the gifted child, the Fuerstein Center's methodology, which is based on the idea of cognitive intervention programs that tap on the brain's capacity for change, has improved not only a person's ability to learn facts, but people's habits of minds, their ability to accelerate their learning over a lifetime. Generations have made their way to the International Center for Enhancement of Learning Potential in Jerusalem, Israel, over the last 50 years, when other methods have failed, looking at it as the last bastion of hope. The center's programs have spread around the world. I caught up with Rafael Fuerstein, son of Reuven Fuerstein, founder of the center in Israel, when he was in Singapore for this interview. What exactly does cognitive modifiability mean? Because most people think brain damage means the end of brain function.
Wonderful question. Okay, we believe that you can modify the intelligence. Why? Because from our point of view, and that's a very deep question which you asked me, intelligence, the normal intelligence of our audience, of you, I hope also of me, is an outcome of a learning process. Means we learned how to think. When our parents talked to us, told us stories, without to learn the Feuerstein method. My father, Professor Feuerstein, who discovered it, it's not a patent, it's a discovery. We are natural mediators when we teach our children, when we tell them stories. I'll give you a short example to make it very, very more concrete. Let's say that I tell my child a story, say, many years ago, and he asked me, what do you mean many thousands of years ago? You were there? No, much more. I gave him the notion of time. When I said, let's summarize your day, or let's plan our weekend, or let's plan our day. Tell me what I teach him to plan. Means all those thinking skills, which are the building blocks of our intelligence, we learn. We learn them from our culture. We learn them from our parents. We learn them from our teachers. It's a natural process. That's why if somebody lacks a skill, I can teach him. If somebody lacks a strategy, let's equip him. Because the basis of what we have is learning. So the fact that everything is based on learning in the normal situation gives us the chance to fix, to rehabilitate, to correct things which are damaged.
Have you had success with patients of Alzheimer's or dementia?
Yeah. That's the great thing. Now, after our success with brain trauma, people who were totally normal after car accidents, after strokes, we could show that we can, using our methods, to bring them back to normality. I would say not necessarily to the same level, but really
you can improve their functions.
Improve them dramatically. We went to the other stage, and the other stage is preventing dementia. We are now preventing dementia. We are not yet in the Alzheimer. We are in the slippery slope. Once we call it MCI. You know, when people in certain ages begin not to remember exactly, to forget, to be confused.
But not with Alzheimer's? Or
not yet. We teach them to remember. Again, everything is about controlling our strategies. You know, we are too much used to be automatic. We are like machines. We don't know how we remember. We don't know how we calculate. We don't know how we make decisions. We just make them. In the Feuerstein method, you go to the awareness. We want people to be aware. That's today.
Can you share with us one example of how you can help maybe with a memory issue for somebody who is older?
There is no part in the brain which is responsible for memory. There is part in the brain which is responsible for speech, for language, for decision, for morality, for emotions, not for memory. Because memory is coming from all the parts of the brain, and you collect them and you reconstruct. Now we teach people to reconstruct the reality which they forgot. Who was there? When was it? And we teach them to put things in order in their brain so they can find it easily. It's like our computer. If you put files just here and there, then we have to, where did I put? But if you organize it in the input stage, then it will be much more easy in the output stage to find what you want, etc., etc.
I read on your website an example of a man who was helped after he took a brain injury in the second Intifada, and you taught him to learn to walk and to learn to talk again. So we're talking about reassembling your memories. Can you also help an individual order language so they are able to communicate? You know, there are many young people who may not be able to communicate verbally. Can you help in that regard, ordering how you speak?
Yeah. I have to compliment you. Your questions are very deep, and the answer is yes. And we do it by teaching people to think language. That's, by the way, the main thing of our method. We teach them to think movement, to think language, to think social interactions. Means, okay, it doesn't come automatically anymore. Why? Because of a car accident. But let's now teach you how to control the processes. It's not coming out. Again, everything is about this passive way. By the way, we are in a danger today and there are a lot of studies about it. Why? Once we had to remember telephone numbers, we had to remember addresses.
With Google, we don't.
Google, all those things, GPS, you don't have to know anything.
So the internet is changing our attention spans, do you think?
No, there are studies which show that we suffer from more memory issues. Why? Because we don't activate our memory. From very early child, there is a term which says use it or lose it. And we don't use it. We are lazy. I mean, we teach our brain to be lazy. I mean, we can rely on technology. So the brain doesn't have to function. And what we do is bring people to function. Shall I give a tip to your audience?
Yes, please.
Yes?
Great.
Okay, let's give a tip. Something which we found very, very helpful and very simple. 5 minutes a day, 3 times a day. Say words, whatever you have in mind. Okay? 5 minutes a day. Now, if somebody can sit near you and write, and we see growth of numbers, means active. Say words, just, table, chair, sky, clouds. Nothing. As rapid you can. 5 minutes. It's like jogging. People run, people do some exercises.
Yes.
5 minutes a day. If people can, 3 times a day. It's not much. 5 minutes, sit in front of somebody.
What's the purpose?
To bring back this storage room. Words are there. We didn't use many words. Again, especially, I'm not talking now about young people. I'm talking about people who begin to see that they lose a word. They don't remember, what's the name? Tip-tongue type of thing. What do I want to say exactly? And the words little bit hide themselves. So if you activate the storage which you have, and you bring the words up, then once you look for them, they'll be there. We saw tremendous changes in people who really suffer from brain trauma. 5 minutes, 3 times a day.
Hear more of my interview with educational pioneer and author of Beyond Smarter, Rafael Feuerstein, after this. You're listening to an all-new expanded Talking Books. I'm Michelle Martin. More of my interview with Rafael Feuerstein, an educational pioneer and author of several books, including the title Beyond Smarter, Mediated Learning and the Brain's Capacity for Change. Are you for integrating children with learning disabilities into mainstream schools?
Wonderful question. The answer is yes. The answer is yes for 2 reasons. First of all, let me say, can I compliment your country? I mean, we really admire your system. We admire your country, admire your education system. First of all, chapeau. That's my, I'm talking to the radio and to your audience. First of all, you have to be proud about your educational system. The answer about your specific questions is yes. The mainstreaming is very important because of 2 things. First of all, many parents say, I want my child to be excellent. If you bring a child with learning disabilities to the class, everything will be slow. The teacher has to repeat 3-4 times the same thing. My child will suffer. Mistake. Every child from K to 12, from here and there, suffers from one or other delays. One child is brilliant in the 2nd grade, is less in the 3rd grade. We are not machines. We are not robots. We are not computers. We are human beings, and we have ups and downs. sounds. Now think about a teacher who takes my brilliant child, but in the 5th grade, from some reason, emotional, social, he became lazy, he became not motivated, he didn't learn, he didn't make... Happens to normal people. But if the teacher is weak, say, oh, I cannot handle him, send him, I cannot... Why not? But if the teacher is a teacher of an LD child, we strengthen him. One of the things, if I may say, from my more international experience, because we have a lot of activities all over the world, that the teacher in our society became very weak. Every little problem is sent to assessment. Schools became more medical centers than educational centers. I think that in our grandparents, before all those titles, teachers had to fight. Teachers had to bring results. So I'm saying that mainstreaming gives the teacher back his ability to make changes, and every child will enjoy it, not just the child who is mainstream, the LD child, the learning disability child. Every child will benefit from such a teacher. Second thing, all those learning disabilities could be brilliant people which the society can enjoy from. Now, if you take them out, immediately you lower the expectations for them. You lower the expectations, it's a self-fulfilling prophecy.
But doesn't the Feuerstein method depend on specialized attention? If the teacher is to mediate reality in a very personalized way, doesn't that require a lot more attention than a teacher in a mainstream school can give in a class of 40?
You can be a professor in our method. Really, I mean it. Let me say, yes, you're right. A lot of our successes in the clinical aspect is because we can be very personal. We can tailor the suit to the child, but there is a but. What we have in a classroom is less the personal suit, but we have the intensity of the stimuli. Think about a child who have problems in his language, in his speech, and he's in front of 30 kids who talk normally, have wonderful vocabulary, and he's exposed 8 hours a day, 6 hours a day, 5 days a week, 6 days a week, to 30, 40 hours of normal behavior, of normal speech, of normal gestures, of normal motivation, of so many habits, of so many hobbies that people have. He's enriched by that. That's much more, we call it shaping, modifying environments. The environment has also a mediational power. Yes, less personal, you are right, but much more effective, much more strong. We put role models in front of the child, and the child benefits from it. He imitates it. So you're right, less personal. And what we say is that the personal hours which he needs, let him get it after school. In school, he has 30 mediators.
Can you give our listeners a taste of the underpinnings of your method? I've read that your methods focus on pen and pencil exercises. Can you perhaps describe one?
We have around 25, 30 modules, which really can give many years of learning. Let me again say something in the principle. We have to bring the same way that we bring math inside schools. We invest hundreds and hundreds of hours in math. Why? Not because we need many mathematicians, because that's the language of technology and science. How come that in our school systems, I'm talking about now the Western, the modern world, and Singapore is a very sophisticated country, wonderful, amazing country. How come that you don't have the area of thinking and learning skills as part of the curriculum? The child doesn't have to learn to compare, to collect information, to be precise, to regulate his behavior, not to be impulsive, to plan, to understand instructions, to raise hypotheses, to analyze, to synthesize, to categorize. Where should he learn it? He has to learn it. Now, we don't teach them. They don't have it. And then we complain. And let me be a little bit provocative. We call them not learning difficulties, teaching difficulties.
Oh, that's so interesting.
Why? Because we don't teach them those thinking and learning skills. Many of them don't get them naturally at home, and then they have learning difficulties. What do we expect from them? So our message is bring it to school, put it as part of the curriculum. Believe me, in a wonderful country like Singapore, it will still upgrade your successes. In Finland, which is another role model for us in the Western world, we train thousands of teachers in our method. It's not a big country again, and our method is very popular in Finland. Again, they have great successes in the international tests. Let me come back to your specific questions. Give you an example. One of our instruments is called Organization of Dots. It's built from a cloud of dots which hide in themselves some models of figures like a square, like triangles, and you have to find it. Now, if you just try to see it, you'll never find it. You have to plan yourself. You have to think, what are the features of a square, of a rectangle, which I can now find in this cloud of points? What do we try to achieve? Think about the child who has some difficulties in reading, or for him to see many digits and many letters, it's chaotic. We teach him how to organize his perception, how to look on a cloud of many, many little pieces, which has some logic inside, but it's hidden, and to analyze it and to find and to organize the reality. Another instrument is dealing with instructions. We give you different instructions, but the instructions, many children fail in tests. But if you check, you see that they gave a good answer, but they didn't understand exactly the question as the teacher wanted them to understand. So what do you do when you have an ambiguous instruction? Let's teach them how to analyze the instruction, not just to run to the answer. So there is a whole module which takes around 20-25 lessons to teach them to understand instructions. Give you another idea. Go to a classroom and ask a child, what were the topics that the teacher covered in the lesson? Let's say that the child listened and gave you 80% of the topics which the teacher covered in the lesson. But then ask him, what was the topic of the lesson? In your words, in 4 words, in your words, what was the topic? You'll find them. They don't find the topic. They have many details, but they don't see the forest. They have the trees, but not the forest. There is a whole module which is called analytic perception, which teaches the children to analyze and to synthesize. We don't teach them. It's so natural, because if the child cannot integrate all the material, how will he remember it? How will he connect one lesson to another? Does the teacher begin the lesson saying, the last lesson with the next lesson will be this is connected to the main topic? No, we teach. Who will create the knowledge which is connected like a puzzle from all those million pieces? The child? Did you teach the child to do it? Time management. Think how many children come home and say, tomorrow I have a test. Hey, where were you? Because they don't know that if there is a test in 2 weeks, what does it mean to organize your 2 weeks? Time management is not taught. They write in their diary or they get the email. In 2 weeks there is a test, but what do they do? Do they know how to plan themselves? No one taught them to. All those things we say, time management, spatial orientation, instructions, analysis should be part of the curriculum. And those are our lessons.
This particular radio show is one that celebrates reading and literacy. How important is interacting with the written text to the Fuerstein method?
Look, that's a very important question, because somehow it goes beyond the Feuerstein method. We are today in an era where our children, what we call Generation Y, were born to the computers, were born to the smartphone, were born to the tablets, and they don't read anymore. They don't talk anymore. The language is very iconic, very, very hi, bye, ciao. Very, those WhatsApp language and Facebook language, which is very poor, very 2-dimensional and not 3-dimensional. And we think that it's a problem that they don't read. And I think we have to do everything to really bring our children back to the books. Why? Because it exposes them to much more rich and much more longitudinal type of stimuli, not just dots, another dot, another, but something which has long sequence and tri-dimensional sequence, which involves past and future and present, and we lack it. I think that the stimuli today are more episodic, more specific, more concrete. Don't give the big picture. And the reading it creates the patience, creates the attention. You have to put much more attention, much more effort. We are lazy today. We don't put effort. We don't learn how to put effort. And I think that all this is very dangerous to our society. I'm not saying I don't have a phobic against technology. I think technology has brilliant things, but we cannot live the old world and the old world.
This has been an